Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Talking Football podcast. I'm absolutely delighted to say we're joined on the line this week by a Bradford City legend, one other than Ces Podd. Ces, thank you very much for coming on the podcast.
Yeah, pleasure, Derek. Nice to speak to you. Love the accent, by the way. It's ages since I've heard a Scottish accent.
Likewise, we're just speaking off air there, and you're in sunnier climes at the moment. It's a bit sunnier than where I am in St. Lucia. What's it like over there just now?
Yeah, I mean, weather's always hot, so it's not, weather's never a problem. The problem, obviously, is the COVID situation that we find ourselves in, same as everyone else. So, I mean, my role here is as technical director for football. So you can imagine we're not allowed to have more than 10 people in any one gathering. So we've had to stop our leagues. We can't take part. It looks like we're going to have to forfeit, international games and tournaments and things like that. So it's not good.
Yeah, it's terrible stuff. Looking at the career then, Ces, I mean, fantastic career in football. When you were born back in 1952 in St. Kitts and Nevis, were you always kicking the ball around as a young boy? Can you remember?
Not really. I mean, as you know, in those days, cricket was the main sport in St. Kitts. Yeah. So we were brought up on cricket, really, in the West Indies. That's the first taste I got of being able to follow a team, and have pride in your country and in what a sport represented. So, no, it was cricket to start with. I'm never very good at cricket, to be honest. My brother and my dad were better at cricket than I was. It was only when we moved to the UK that I found, the game that I loved more than anything, which obviously was football. Yeah,
you moved to was it Leeds at the age of 9? Is that right?
You're right. Yeah. When I was 9, we moved to Leeds. The whole family moved. My dad came first, and then we came second. The 6 of us in the family, kids. So I was third in the family, the first boy. So we moved to an area called Chapeltown in Leeds, where most of the black communities from overseas moved to. And then about a year after that, we moved to an area down near Elland Road, where Leeds United play, obviously. And that's really where I began to pick up on, the love of the game, the love of football. I used to go with one of the adults from our church to watch Leeds United. Used to take all the kids, and I went with them, and that's how I fell in love with the game.
Yeah, it must have been quite a culture change and shift from what you were used to as a young boy moving to Leeds. Did it take you a while to adjust, to acclimatise to UK life?
Yeah, good question, because I think because the family was so big, there were 6 kids and we were roughly the same age. There was a year or 2 between separating us all. So we had each other, but you did notice racism did come into it when you stepped out of that safety of your family. And that was something that I had to deal with at an early age, especially when we moved down to a predominantly white neighborhood where I was the only black kid at our school at the time. Wow. And even though I didn't kind of take much notice of it, I kind of learned to deal with that really quickly. There was racism, and it was in a way where you didn't really have a say when it came to being able to avoid it, because you were right in the middle of it. You were the only black kid there. They'd see things on TV, and then they'd come back at you with things that they'd seen, as youngsters do, and the taunting and the name calling and things like that. But it was something that you had to deal with, and I think you just wouldn't get things that used to happen in those days, Derek. You just wouldn't get away with it today. So there was a lot that I had to deal with.
Yeah, you must have developed a thick skin, I can imagine. Say it's grown up back then, just sort of try and take not let things affect you, really.
Yeah, I think that's when you need your parent. Good parenting is important in situations like that. And also, I think the one thing that I realized as well, that not everyone is racist. So you always had someone who would, like a white person, who would stand up for you. In my case, teachers and some close friends, and I made sure I kind of stayed around those people. And one thing I think is important is that you don't accept it too much. Some of it you can't avoid, but there are times when you really have to stand up against it and say, look, enough's enough. This is what's happening. In my case, to the teacher that cared, Mr. Freeman, I'll never forget him. And he kind of sorted out one or two things for me. And then your parents, good parenting, your parents would told you how to deal with certain situations. I mean, so you wouldn't be in a fight every day, because I was in so many fights at the age of 12 and 12 to 14, just because I retaliated. And sometimes you don't need to, you can deal with it in other ways. So a number of things really, but what it does, Derek, it strengthens you.
Yeah.
And it gives you the ability to deal with situations like that.
So the football then, Seth, did you play for the school team or boys clubs back in the day?
Well, yeah. What happened was I used to play again. Our whole family are Christians, so we used to go to a church called St. Peter's, and that's where I started playing for the church team. One of the guys there started a team, and we got together. I used to just have a kick around at school and everything, and I really enjoyed it. I have to tell you this though. When I used to play in the schoolyard, again, I was the only black kid at the school. My school was a school called Matthew Murray in again, really close to Elland Road. So football became part of my life. You'd watch it on a Saturday with the boys. You'd go to the game, sneak in under the turnstile and everything like you do. And then you'd come back and you'd copy your favorite player. For obvious reasons, my favorite player was a black guy and I think he was the only black player in the league at the time, called Albert Johansson.
Yeah.
So you'd go back in the school yard like you do, and you pretend to be your hero, my Albert Johansson and stuff like that. But also, you used to get kids who used to rile me when, call me names and things. And what I realized was when I was playing football, it kind of learned how to deal with them guys on the field rather than have a fist fight. So you learn how to go over the top. I'm sure you know what that means.
Yeah.
And hurt people and kind of make them look silly by nutmegging them. And that's really how my football developed, believe it or not, as a defense against racism in the school grounds. It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, crazy it is. You mentioned there Albert Johansson and going to Elland Road as a young boy, Seth. What was that like? What's your memories of that? Because Leeds were built quite a good side back then, didn't they?
They did. I mean that really, inspired me to be a footballer, if I'm honest. Yeah. I used to spend more. I knew the whole Leeds team: Sprague, Reaney, Cooper, Bremner, Charlton, Hunter, Lorimer, Giles, Jones, Gray, Eddie Gray. What a player he was. Yeah. And then he had Albert Johansson, the only black player at the time in the league, from what I remember. And it was like, it was tradition, every Saturday you wanted to be there. And my mates, we were from a poor background, really. We couldn't really afford to be going every Saturday and pay the money. So what we used to do is just wait and hope that somebody's offered to pay us in or push us under the turnstile, and those things happened. And that's how my love for the game grew and developed. So Albert was awesome. Wasn't that he's one of the most skillful players that I'd ever seen, but he wasn't the toughest, so that was an area that I thought if he was a bit tougher, he would have been world class. He would have been in the same mold as Pele.
Wow, yeah. Yeah, you hear great stories about him. I've spoke to a few Leeds players back in the day, and they speak very highly of him. And he like you, suffered a bit of abuse from the stands. It must have been hard. He as a player to deal with that as well. Like you said, only black player in the league. It's hard to think about that now, isn't it? With what we
see. Unbelievable. You can imagine what he suffered and how he dealt with it. I mean, I remember when I ended up working at Elland Road as the community officer and the under-16 coach. And I remember Albert coming to me just before he died. I'd never seen him in the state that he was before that meeting. And I was in the office and he came in and he was asking for help. and you could tell he was an alcoholic at that time, and you could tell he was really ill. And I think what I did, I went to the general secretary and explained that he needed assistance, and, with where he was living, to be able to pay the rent and pay for some doctor's bills and things like that. And the club helped him. I think the players there as well had something where they were able to help each other, the Billy Bremners and people like that. And I know they helped out with that. And then a couple of months after, he died. Yeah. So pretty sad stuff, but great player. They're the memories I want to remember, watching him play and how good he was on the ball.
Yeah. So the Bradford City move then, how did all that come about?
Yeah, I mean, again, what happened was I remember playing for the church youth team, and I was approached by a scout who said he was from Manchester United, and he gave me a form to fill out, and I filled the form out and send it off. And you know how excited you get, and all your mates are saying, "Oh man, they're interested in you, everything," and you're waiting for a reply. But the form, what I remember now, because I couldn't believe that after this guy had made such a big ruckus about me coming for trials and everything, I never even heard back from them. And one of the guys that said, you don't think it's because you're black, because they don't have many black players playing, do they? I mean, Man U, that's one of the best teams in England, he was saying. And I just laughed it off. But it could have been that, when they looked at my resume, where are you from? And I put the Caribbean and things like that. So it could have been that. But then what confirmed it in my mind was when it happened again with Wolves. And I was invited to a trial down there, and I traveled all the way down to Wolverhampton in Birmingham. You know that the distance that is. Yeah. My dad went with me, and I never even got on the field. And I began to think, well, perhaps they don't think that we're only good at cricket, not football. Mm-hmm. So it really hit home then, and I was about to give up. But I loved playing. I continued playing, and I ended up going to college, Bradford Art College. Yeah. And that's where I was spotted. Really, I was playing in the yard with. I was at the Bradford College of Art, and they had like an area where you could have a kickabout with your friends at lunchtime. Yeah. And a friend of mine called me, Killingworth, and his dad was a scout at Valley Parade, Bradford City's ground. And he said, you ought to be playing professional football the way you handle a ball. And I told him about the Man U thing and everything, and it really inspired him. He said, I'm going to get you a trial with Bradford. My dad will get you a trial. And if you are that good, he said, you'll get in that team. So that's what happened. He was true to his words. I think what happened, was more the reason that I ended up at Bradford as well, because what happened when I went to the trial, the same thing again happened. They picked two teams, and I wasn't selected. So I heard the first team manager, who was Jimmy Wheeler at the time, bless him, he's dead. He died, I think, a couple of years ago. But he actually came to the trials, and I heard him say, I'm looking for a left back. Any of you guys play left back? And I put my hand up straight away because I just wanted to get on the field. Yeah. But really, I was a right winger. So, I went on at left back, and I remember, even now, loving it, just trying to play. I just wanted to play, Didn't have any expectations at all. Being great. My dad was there, by the way, and I could hear him shouting. He always supported me, And at half time, after about 20 minutes, Jimmy Wheeler came up to me and said, listen, I've got to go, son, but I want you to come. I want you to join my youth team. I think you've got a chance in the game. And that's how it started, So they went to, we used to train on the Tuesdays and the Thursday at Bradford, the youth teams. And I used to attend those sessions from Leeds to Bradford by train and stuff, And I remember, the manager actually coming in and saying to me, listen, I think we want to give you a contract, but I need to discuss one or two things with your parents. But I'll make an appointment and I'll come and see them. And that, about a week after that conversation with Jimmy, the car pulled up outside my dad's house. Now, we lived on a terrace street, you know those Coronation Street
Yeah,
that you see. We lived on one of those, right? So you can imagine the boss is pulling up in his car, big Merc, and all my mates are running and seeing what's happening, and he comes in and knocks on the door, surrounded by about 100 kids, right? And he comes in and he says to my dad, goes through all this spiel, we want to sign him and everything. And my dad says, okay, he says, let me have a word with this gentleman. And he told me to go out. So I went out and I'm thinking, I'm coming back with a contract here. And walked in and my dad said, I've just explained to him, we appreciate his offer, but you've got to finish your schoolwork. And that was it. Oh man, you can imagine as a kid, I was 16 and he says, you've got to go to college, which had just started. Yeah. He says, continue with that. And if you're that good, then they'll sign you after. And that's what happened. So I had to finish. I had to go for another year as well and finish it, my diploma, and I got that. And he was right though. After that, they came and they offered me a contract in 1970. I was 18.
Yeah.
And that same year, I made my first team debut against Chesterfield. So my dad was right, and they did come back. But it was really down to Jimmy Wheeler who saw the potential and gave me the opportunity.
Yeah, fair play to him. That debut then against Chesterfield, Ces, can you remember much about it? How you felt before it? When did you know you were going to be playing?
Oh, that is something, isn't it? For any young player who has never experienced that, it doesn't matter what level. Yeah. When somebody when the boss calls you into the office, and you think, well, I remember this, Derry, right? We played the juniors played against Newcastle. The week before, the boss called me in to tell me I was going to be playing. And I remember that I had this altercation with the right wing. I was playing right back, with the left wing. I was playing right back. And I can't remember what he said to me, but I really clattered him. He was quite a big lad as well. Mm. And the referee's come over and he's waved a card at me. And then for the rest 20 minutes, all I could think about was getting my own back on this kid, right? How I was going to do it and everything. And what happened was the guy, I got the opportunity and he came at me and I absolutely flattened it. But it's a really good tackle. The timing and everything was perfect, And I heard the coach say to me, "Hey, Ces, calm down, son. Calm down. You're going to get yourself sent off." So anyway, the whistle goes and he calls me and he goes, "I don't know what you were thinking there, but you've got to, things like that you cannot do. You've got to be mindful that after one booking, you could get sent off." So I never thought anything else of it. So on the Friday now, the following Friday, the boss calls me into his office and I'm thinking, oh no, he's going to have a go at me for what happened at Newcastle. And he says to me, "I think you can handle this situation. So the only thing that's held me back, I wasn't sure that you're physically up to making your debut, but you are, and I'm playing you on Saturday." Well, you can imagine me. I'm walking out and I've gone in thinking I'm going to get a bollocking from the boss, right? And he tells me I'm making my first team debut. And that's what happened. Awesome feeling.
Yeah, I can imagine it would be. See the players that were there. Did they welcome you, Ces? Were they hard on you, or did they help you integrate into the team?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Again, the only black kid there was pretty spindly-legged. I wasn't a well-built guy. I was physical, but I needed looking after because some of the tackles and things I used to go into, my timing was out and stuff. So they were really helpful in training, and stuff like that. So when I made my debut, the captain was a guy called Tom Hallett, a big Welshman. And he took me under his wing. There was another guy called the goalkeeper, Pat Liney. Remember him? I remember sitting on the bus and Pat came and sat next to me and said, "Listen, son," he said, "You're playing in front of me." He said, I'm the goalkeeper. I've seen you play and I am so confident that we're not going to get a shot. I'm not going to have to deal with any shooting from wide positions today because with your pace and the way you play. And that's how he was talking to me. So at the time, I'm kind of listening, but I didn't realize the importance of the psychology that was involved in those discussions that we were having. And it gave me so much confidence. We had a young striker called Bobby Ham, who was a prolific goal scorer, Bruce Bannister. So I knew we had good players in the team who could finish as well. And I just enjoyed it. I really enjoyed playing. I knew I was told how we were going to play. They wanted me to get up the flanks, give balls, try and find Bobby or Banny. And the boss was saying, if you can do that job for us, we win this game. You know, so straight away I was involved in the team talk, and I felt a part of it. And that continued until the end of my career at Bradford. I spent 14 years there. I think, yeah, I'm the record. I don't think anyone's played any more games than I have. I don't think.
No, and I don't think they will do, Cess. I mean, it's an incredible amount of games that you played there. You mentioned there Bruce Bannister. I interviewed him a few years ago as well. What a cracking guy he is. What great finisher at the time as well, wasn't he?
Oh, unbelievable. I mean, he's one of the, outside of your top players, he's one of the most intelligent footballers I've seen. Yeah. You know, because football's not all about your technical ability. It's your psychology and your intelligence on the ball. And he was one of those, on and off the ball. Some of his runs, you know, never heard of it before. I became a pro, like your curved runs and your angles that you receive the ball at and things like that. He was the best. I learned so much from him. I just think he because he went on to play abroad as well, didn't he? You know, one of the few players from Bradford who went on to play in, I think it was either France or Italy.
Yeah, he went to France, yeah.
France, was it? Yeah. But great, and he was a great businessman as well. You know, he had a sports shop in Bradford that did really well. I think it's still there.
It is.
So, great guy.
Yeah, he done well for himself. Valley Parade, of course, it's much different now from when you played. But what's your memories? Did you enjoy playing there?
Oh, I loved it. Yeah, it's have you seen it now? I mean, it's like a Premiership ground, isn't it?
Yeah. I was there just the other week. Yeah.
But when I played there, it was before the fire, and it was very, very average. Yeah. You know, we were averaging something like 5,000 a game, which wasn't bad for that league at the time and the standard of football. But when I look at it now, awesome. You know, it's a massive, or potentially it's a massive club. You know, they won't have to make many changes if they could go back into the Premiership. But in those days, Derek, it was just a really homely place to be. I loved football. The supporters and the fans were great. You know, there wasn't much violence. I never suffered any racist abuse from our fans. It was all supportive. And that's why I stayed so long. You know, there were opportunities for me to leave, but some of them I toyed with, but really I was never going to leave there as long as I was enjoying my football. And I did for the 14 years I spent there.
Yeah, you enjoyed some promotions as well when you were there. Did those rank high in the memory set? The 76-77 season, I know you went up that year, and 81-82 wasn't under Roy McFarlane, two good years for the club. Yeah,
and again, Roy, one of the best managers I've played under. And when I say that, I mean he understood how to deal with players, you know, and that has a lot to do with whether or not you're successful. Yeah. But Roy, you see, he played the game. He was an intelligent coach. He took into account, you know, especially at that level, I think it's so important that you considered the players that you had at the time and how you could best use them, because you weren't able to spend the type of money they spend nowadays to get success. So you had to deal with what you had. And I think he was good at that. I always remember him saying to me, forget defending, get forward, and then your defend, because you were brought up as a defender and you're disciplined enough. I know that the defensive bit will come naturally, but what I want you to do is to get into wide positions and deliver balls for Bobby Campbell. Now, yeah. Bobby Campbell, I don't know if you know, but Bobby was an awesome striker. You know, played for Ireland, But what a character, and he's one of those guys that, if he's in the team, you always know what you have to do. All you need to do is to get the ball into the 6-yard box. And we even then we were working on percentages. So obviously the more balls we could deliver, we knew if we delivered 3 balls in the box for Bobby, he was going to get a goal in one of those 3. So it's a case of how many times can you, and if half time you come off and you haven't delivered, you've only delivered 2, you know you're in for a rollicking. But boss, I was only 1 off, but it's not 3, is it, sir? You know what I mean? So that's how he used to speak to you. I loved him. I thought he was one of the best managers I've played under.
Yeah. You mentioned there Bobby Campbell. They had John Hendry on a year or so ago, and he said, when you said about getting crosses in, he said he had him pinned up against the wall in the dressing room at half time one time because he was unhappy. But he said he would stand up. He's one of those guys you just love to have in your team because he'd stand and have your back and what have you during the game as well. So it seems like a right big character to have.
Oh yeah, awesome guy, and I think his character is what made Bradford City during that period of time what it was, because the fans took to it.
Yeah,
he was like, I don't know. I remember him doing an interview once, and I'm thinking, I wonder what Bobby's going to say, because they were interviewing. There's about 3 or 4 players, and they're asking them, "Oh, what was it like when you joined Bradford City? What are the memories you had and everything?" And they were gradually getting to Bob, and I've got my hands over my eyes. I'm thinking, what is he going to say? And they got to Bob, and he said, and the commentator asked him, what's the most memorable thing about joining Bradford City? And he said, the pub at the top of the road. Yeah, I mean, he just wouldn't say that on TV, would you? Oh dear, I loved him though. He was a great player. What a finisher! People just have this knack of being in the right place at the right time. Yeah. But not only that, but delivering the right technique to finish.
Yeah.
That's something that you can't coach. I just think that comes naturally, and Bobby had that.
Yeah. See, you mentioned Roy McFarland, Cess, of course, but when he managed to guide Bradford up, he then went to Derby. Were you sad to see him go at that point? Was that a disappointment?
Yeah, I think obviously because we'd done so well under him, and it was like losing a dad to some of us, because he was the one that got us promotion. Yeah. We expected to kick on from that. But you can't really blame him, because it was his club, wasn't it? When he got the opportunity to go back there, he grasped it with both hands. So when he left, it was a case of all the best, and thanks for what you've done for us here at Bradford.
Yeah, Trevor Cherry and of course Terry Yoroth come in for a bit. I mean, terrible to hear the news about Trevor last year, of course, taken too soon. What was your memories of those two?
Again, I think both as a pairing, they were, they did an awesome job. Yeah. And you could tell it was like a bit like Brian Clough and Gordon. Is it Taylor?
Taylor,
yeah, it was. Yeah, it was a bit like that, to be honest, and it was new to us, because they were inseparable. Even when they'd turn up on the training ground together. They'd be discussing how we're going to play together. You'd see them talking. We'll be running around the track, and you'll see them talking as though, we've got a plan. Shall we tell them now, or which one of us should tell them? And that's what they had going on. And it was always going to be successful, because football for me is all about team. No one person can be successful at a club. And I think the more people you have, and the more ideas you have, and the more banter you have going on, I think it's good and healthy. And I think they brought that to the club. It was like a new era, a new mindset. But it was exciting. I like the way they went about the business. And I think a lot of us learned a lot from it. Those who've gone into management since, like Peter Jackson, people like that, learn, I think, from Trevor and Terry. I love Terry, by the way. Awesome guy, down to earth. He played with one of the best clubs and best team, even though he wasn't always a regular in the Leeds United team at the time. I just think he learned an awful lot from them, and great player as well. Don't underestimate how good he was when he came to Bradford. Great player.
Well, they had a number of young players at the early 80s. Stuart McCall was one of them, of course. He'd go on and have a tremendous career and also go into management. Says, can you remember much about him when he was coming through?
Yeah, I mean, I remember Stuart. I remember Stuart taking my place at right back when I got injured. That was his first game, and it was in the right back position. And I was watching him, and I'm thinking, I'll be lucky if I get back into this team. It's awesome, you know. But he just, yeah, Stuart. You know, when you're looking at a player, you you see all the basics. So it's not like he's flashy or anything,
Yeah.
but you just know that his first touch, you know that before he even receives the ball, he knows where it's going. You know that he can handle himself on the field. You know that he can play balls around the corner if he needs to. And all that within one game, I'm saying, this kid is awesome, you know. And it was, the thing is, he wasn't a tall guy, you know, but he was stocky, and he could shield the ball. And in that league at the time, you needed to be able to do that. But on top of that, why you know that he's going to go further is because he had all the other stuff to go with that. So not only could he look after himself physically, but mentally he was able to you know, outwit anybody on the field. His passing was awesome, you know. And when I say passing, I don't just mean the accuracy, but the weight of the pass and the timing of the pass, and which pass to, you know, shall I curl it round with my inside of my foot, or, you know, Stuart, man, that was his gift. He was able to do all the basics and more. Great player. As soon as I saw him, I knew he was going to go further.
Yeah, he certainly was. We touched on Albert Johansson earlier on about a stick he received from the stands. Was that something you got a bit of, Cess, when you travelled around the country with Bradford? That's something that you get a bit of abuse directed to you from the stands?
Yeah. I mean, not from our fans, obviously, but from away fans. Yeah, I'm not going to name clubs, but there were so many of them at the time. Yeah. I think they'd never seen. Most of them had never even seen a black player in life before playing, you know, against their club. So you can imagine the monkey chants and the bananas thrown. You know, it always makes me smile when I see the John Barnes one. Because that happened to me. I actually juggled the one that was thrown at me before I smashed it back into the stand with my right foot. Right, but when I see things like that, it doesn't really surprise me. It surprises me that people are surprised by it, you know, because you can imagine, Derek, in those days when you run onto the field and you know, there's a group of people who are seeing a black player for the first time, and any opportunity to be able to chant something, you know, collectively, if there's a racist element in the stand, then you can expect to be targeted, and that's what used to happen. Not all, I have to say, not every club was like that, but very often you would hear, you know, the odd chant too. Yeah.
See, when that happened, I mean, was there avenues to report it like we see today with regards to, can you go to the club or PFA or what have you? Or is that just not an option back then? You just had to suck it up?
I think so. I think you had to a certain extent. I don't think there was the awareness because it was new. You know, my era was, it was the first time black players were now beginning to play in professional teams and traveling to away grounds. So it was new to everybody. What you needed, and what I found at Bradford, was you needed that support and you needed people who, you know, can help you deal and handle those situations. And fortunately for me, you know, the managers that I played under, it started with Jimmy Wheeler, and then, you know, we had people like Bobby Kennedy, you know, and Brian Edwards. I don't know if you remember him. Brian Edwards was one of the best when it came to doing that. You know, he had a great sense of humor, and he'd call me in and he'd tell me stuff. By the way, these guys, says, he said, if you weren't performing, they won't even be calling you those names. Half of them don't even know about the Caribbean. You know more about England, than they do about the Caribbean. And he talked to you like this, and I said, all I want you to do, son, just to keep doing what you're doing. Forget that one. And then you go out and he comes. And sometimes I used to be just training, nothing to do with anything that's happened on the Saturday, but he'll just pull me to the side and he'll say to me, you're when you look around the Football League, how many black players do you see? I said, not many. He says, you're going to see a lot more. Do you know why? He said, why? He said, because of you. And then he'd just walk away, and he used to talk to me like that. And it's building you up. You're thinking you're this special person because the boss thinks that people are going to come, other people like yourself, because of what you're doing. So I used to love talking to him. Great bloke.
Yeah. You mentioned so you had offers to move away while you were at Bradford. What clubs, was there any clubs that sort of maybe persuaded you to move away, or were you sort of that?
No, I know. I mean, there was all levels, to be honest, and there were only like the things that I'd heard from the executives and the managers. Would you be interested? But I actually got a call from Portsmouth, asking me if I was interested and stuff like that. And outside of that, I heard that Liverpool were interested from one of the chairmen, the directors, and they were watching. Would I be interested in going there? As though you wouldn't, but unfortunately, to be honest, I wouldn't. I know it sounds crazy, but it's exciting. But the reality is, even if it was Liverpool, would I move? And at the time, I'm not sure I would have done. Yeah. I certainly didn't. I could have gone to Portsmouth. I even talked terms, but I didn't go because I looked at the map and I'm thinking, I'm getting stuck in Sheffield. Look at how far Portsmouth is. So it was one of them things. You just, I don't know. It wasn't about status or what league it was, or at the time I was enjoying my football, and that's what I was there for. I was never into the, you're going to become wealthy or anything like that. Obviously, you earned a decent living, but I don't know. It surpassed that, Derek. The race thing, looking back, had to have a massive effect on anyone that was coming into the game in that era.
Yeah. Of course, you were rewarded with a testimonial in 1981. Says who was that against?
That's a great question. Because listen, they were saying to me, when you have a testimonial, you have to apply for it and everything, and then you have to put a committee together.
Yeah.
And they put a committee together, and they said to me, listen, what you need to make money is you need to get a Man U, a Liverpool. They'll bring their supporters. That's where you're going to make your money. But what happened before, Derek, was I had my niece over from the Caribbean. She stayed with us. She was only 5, and she stayed with us for a year because her mom was doing something, and my mom was looking after her. And she used to love watching me play. And then there was another black player that called Joe Cook, who joined us. And she used to either be shouting my name or Joe's name, right? And it kind of made me think, the more black kids see black players, they can relate to them. So automatically, they get more interested in either the club or the player. Do you know what I mean? So I realized that we needed to show more black kids that there were more black players. So I said, I want an all black team.
Oh.
I'm looking at who. I mean, I had to let me see now if I can. My testimonial: George Berry, Bob Hazel, Brendan Batson, Terry Connell. Terry was at Leeds at the time. Garth Crooks, he was at Spurs. Vince Hilaire, Crystal Palace. Joe was at Bradford with me. Justin Fashanu, you remember him?
Yeah.
Tony Cunningham, he was at Lincoln City. Luther Blissett at Watford. Trevor Quo, Ricky Hill, Luton.
Yeah.
And the Chamberlain brothers, whose one of them's sons now playing at Liverpool.
Yeah.
Right? So we got them guys together. And that was the reason behind it. I just wanted black people to see that, look how many black players now are playing at every level.
Yeah.
And that's what we did. We came together. It was a great, I mean, the game, I can't remember much about the game. I can remember scoring a penalty and the goalkeeper diving over it. I remember that. But it was after the game when we all met. A lot of us went back to my house, Garth Crooks, and Terry Connor was a good friend at the time and stuff. We lived near each other, and there was about 6 or 7 of us, and we had a really good chat about what had happened, how we thought football was going to evolve, how black players needed to make a statement, and it was just really nice. So, that's one thing I always remember. I think if I want to be remembered for anything, was that I was a part of something that helped to assist black players and have them be recognized as worthy people to get contracts with clubs.
Yeah, that's a fantastic idea. And you mentioned some of the players you mentioned there were absolute stars. Did you ever come up against the likes of Laurie Cunningham or Justin Fashanu at all?
I can't remember. I know I came up against. I remember moving to Halifax when I was finishing my career, and I remember going up against Garth. And I think I've still got a clip of this, because I don't know what happened, but he made a run in behind me and scored.
Yeah.
And then he was celebrating, and then he kind of on the way into the changing rooms, he just went, "Sorry." And then I looked at him, and he looked back at me, and he started laughing, and I started laughing. But yeah, we kind of became quite good friends. Visited him a couple of times in London, and not just me and him, but I think black players in general seem to have a respect and a friendship that perhaps doesn't happen outside of everyday life with other footballers. Yeah. Because I think we realize that we have to support each other.
Yeah. You mentioned there Halifax, Ces, of course, and you left the club, and the club was in a bit of financial turmoil then, wasn't it? I know they called the receivers in '83. Was it a tough time as a player, and were you disappointed to leave?
Not really, because what had happened was, as you say, I think things were tough for the club. I wasn't really enjoying it. And to be honest, I think I was ready for retirement because I'd been offered a job at Leeds United. Yeah. And I was doing the under 16 boys, and I was the footballing the community officer, which was a role that I'd got through the Professional Footballers Association. So that was taking a lot of my time as well. But what happened straight after that was more significant, because I got a call. I went on holiday after I'd finished, and I thought, this was it. I've finished now. I'm just going to focus on my job and coaching and stuff. And then I went on holiday in Spain, and I got a call at the hotel from my mom, and she said, "There's a guy called Neil Warnock on the phone, wants to talk to you." And I don't know if you've ever met Neil, but he's the most persuasive guy in the world. He just never takes no for an answer. So remember, I've never met him, and he says to me, "Ces, I've got this team. I put a team together at Scarborough," he said, "and they're all a bunch of misfits, and I want you to join." So that's not the most, encouraging conversation you want to have from. So he says, "But this is why I want you to join. I need a fullback, a captain, and a coach." He said, "And you can do all 3. He says, "I've seen you play. I know exactly what you can do, and you are the missing link." He says, "If you join me here, we will get promotion to the Football League. If we get promotion, we'll be making history. It's never been done before. We will be the first club to gain promotion on merit and not be voted in. We'll go down in history." And then he went quiet, and he's waiting for my response. I didn't even know what to say. So I said, "Well, Neil, I've just retired. Forget retirement, Ces. This is important." Right? So he goes, "All right, tell you what, you're on holiday. I'm going to give you my address. Come and see me. Give me a call, or I'll call you when you get back, and come and have a chat face to face. He says, you can't let this opportunity go for both of us. So anyway, so I'm thinking about it, but I'm thinking, well, I've really made mind up, and I've still got this job at Leeds, and So anyway, I got back. As soon as I get into the house, the phone rings, and it's Neil. So he goes, so he says, come and see me, and he gives me his address. So he lived in Sheffield at the time. So when I arrived, I went. He had a. I don't know if you know this, but he was a chiropodist. So he had this office, and he says, "Oh, come in." Knocked on the door. Come in. Walks upstairs, and he goes, "Have a seat on my couch." So he sits me on this couch. You know, the dentist couch where you sit and something's going to happen. He goes, "Take your shoes and socks off." So I took them off. And he says, "You've got ingrowing toenails, haven't you?" So I said, "Yeah, how do you know that?" He says, "I know these things. I know all about you." So it starts peeling my ingrowing toenails out, and he's talking terms, and he's going. He said, "This is who I've got," and he starts going through the list of players, and some of them I'd known. Neil Thompson. He said, "He's great." So that's my other fullback, and then he's going through the team. He says, "And I've got Evo, but Evo's not really a coach. He's a good friend, but you need to start coaching the team." And anyway, and then he stops. He goes, "Stand up." So I stood up. He goes, "Can you feel your ingrowing toenails?" I said, "No." So he says, "Sign for me, and you'll never have ingrowing toenails again." So, and that was it. So anyway, I signed, as you know by now. I signed, and we won promotion. It was unbelievable. I don't know how much you know about the Scarborough team at the time, but we just we blasted everybody, and it's just a really good season that I had with them. We got promoted. I played in every game in that season. I didn't. The coaching thing lasted about 6 weeks. I just couldn't do both because Neil doesn't do a lot of coaching. His gift is man management. He's awesome, and he understands the game, but he doesn't. Like, I'm sure even now, most of his coaches, you always see him take Blackie on, who's in the goals for us at the time. But Kevin Blackwell always travels with him. He was at Leeds with him. He took over from him at Leeds when Neil left. But they work really well together because Blackie will do most of the coaching and Neil will do the management side. So I just love the way they go about business. Again, that team thing, isn't it? Where I just think you need more than any one person to be successful.
It's funny you mentioned the man management. I had spoke to Ian Baird, who played under him at Plymouth a while ago. They won, I think they won the playoffs or something under Neil Warnock, and they said none of the players liked him, but they would run through brick walls for him on the park. He had that thing about him. I guess he was like very much like that at Scarborough as well. Yeah,
absolutely. I think. But I mean, he had a social side to him as well, because probably about 2 or 3 years ago, he organised. In fact, last year he tried to organise another one where all the players met, and he paid for everything. Wow. So we all met at Scarborough, and I think we tried to do the same again last year, but we were all over the place, and then COVID hit, so we couldn't do that. But no, Neil's something else. He really is. It's unique, and that's why he's so successful. I think he's the most successful manager in terms of promotion in the history of football in England. So he knows what he's doing.
And he's still going. It's incredible, isn't it? Obviously he just loves the game, and it's great to see him still managing it at a very good level as well. It shows that you still got it.
Yeah, absolutely. You're not going to lose that. That's something that he'll always have. And I mean, the number of times, because now and again he'll call me or I'll call him, and he's always, I'm going to pack. That's it. My last year, I'm going to give packing in this year. But the next thing he's got another job. So goodness knows how long it can go on.
Yeah. You played for St Kitts as well, didn't you, during your career? When was that? When did you go and represent them?
Right. So this was when I was at Leeds. I got offered the job as technical director stroke coach, right? And I remember going and thinking, when I got there, for me, technical director is for someone who oversees the development of football, not just the national team.
Yeah.
But what I found myself doing, it was really all about the national team. So I was doing more a coach, national team coach. Now, I'd never got a cap, but I'm in a position now where I could give myself a cap, even though I've retired. Right? So that's how that came about. So I put myself on the team sheet. So if anybody asks me, okay, put your taps on the table, I can say, here you go. And that's how it started. I can't even remember if I got on the field. I think probably I'd have brought myself on for probably about 10, 15 minutes or something like that. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that was another great experience. That's how I started international football. As you know, it's the ultimate, really, to represent the country that you love and that you're from, and especially in my case, which is where all my family are from. Yeah. So that was great experience.
Yeah, the reason I've got you now, Ces, is because I had Dean Wallen on a few weeks ago, and he mentioned you. He said when you got a call, he went over and played. He says it was one of his greatest experiences going over there and playing for St Kitts. So it certainly made a big impression on him, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, Dean I think he was at Guiseley or somewhere like that when I first saw him, and I just thought, this kid can play, you know. Yeah. I think there was him and Des Hazel. And a couple more that we brought over, and they did well. You know, we got quite far. I remember, I don't know if they were playing when we played again. We brought Bradford City over when Bradford City had just got promoted to the Premiership, and I remember Terry Yoris and Paul Jewell were managers, and I invited them over to take part as a warm up to go, you know, for pre-season. Yeah. To St Kitts. So they did pre-season there. We invited Canada and Dominica to take part in a tournament, like a friendly between the whole group, and Bradford brought the team that was going to represent them in the Premiership that year. It was great experience, and great for me because I was in the country that I was born in and that I love, that I was working in, and you know, Bradford City, the team that I love, and my mates, some of my mates were there. Taff was there, Paul Jewell and stuff. It was great. Yeah.
Dean said that when he was over there, he played against Brazil under-20s or something, and Ronaldo was playing up against him.
You know, yeah, it's true, you know, but I mean, I don't have anything. I remember the name, but I don't have any documentation that says that. And I've heard a few people say that. I don't remember him because he didn't stand out because our kids were that good that day, right? but I do remember someone saying, "Oh yeah, if you look back, he was actually in that team." Yeah. But it shows how well our kids did, you know. Yeah. I can't remember the result, but we didn't get trashed or anything. Yeah. But there's some quality over in the Caribbean, you know, Derek. That's the one thing I'd like to see change. For the kids here to be given the opportunity, because we, you know, to get them out. The paperwork doesn't allow at the moment because of all the politics that goes on in the world, you know. But it's just, I think we must look at some way of being able to get our kids the opportunity to play at a higher level if they deserve to, in terms of the way that they perform themselves at international level. We've got an under-17 team here in St Lucia who haven't lost a game in 2 years, and they haven't drawn a game in 2 years. They've won them all. Wow. You know, we've got them in a school here now, in an academy. We were supposed to go to Latvia to take part in a tournament. We're invited by UEFA through FIFA to take part in this tournament, but because of COVID, we've missed that opportunity as well. Yeah. But yeah, and I just want to say to big up my region, CONCACAF, because we're beginning to really develop football here now.
Yeah. Is it hard competing with cricket like when you were growing up, Ces? Is football getting more and more popular over there?
Absolutely, yeah. It's taken over from cricket and has done for a few years now. You know, I'm not sure that everyone will agree, but I know that it's by far the most popular sport in the Caribbean now, football. Yeah. You know, and it shows the way that the CONCACAF region of football in the world has really done exceptionally well. When you remember, we've got teams like Mexico, Jamaica, US, Canada. So we have to, and we have at every level, we have to compete with these countries. So it means that our football have to keep continuing to develop, and that's what we're trying to do. Make sure that we put programs in place that can assist the young players to do that.
Yeah, fantastic stuff. And when I was doing some research for the program, is it right you've got a salsa company as well outside of the game?
you certainly have done your homework. Yeah, well, I'll tell you, it's one of them areas, that dancing. What used to happen is, I remember when I was taking under 16, and I realized some of the kids, and I have to say this. Sorry if it's politically incorrect, but some of the white kids couldn't dance, right? and I was thinking, people like Smithy doing coordination work. Alan Smithy, he was at Leeds at the time, and Jonathan Woodgate and all them guys. And you look at the footwork, the turning, and it wasn't that they were bad at it, but it just didn't look elegant. And I just really wanted something to help them with the coordination and the mobility. So I was watching a coaching video that the Brazilians were looking at, that were working from, and it was done to music. So I decided to go and learn how to dance and develop the coordination based on dance. And I went to a young lady called Tanya Kusa, and she was, I think she was Colombian, and she showed me how to do the salsa stuff. And eventually I ended up getting that good at it that she asked me to help her do the sessions and stuff. So I kind of just developed that. So yeah, and I met my partner she was really good at dancing as well. So we just decided to do something that we could both do together. And it was a little business at the time. And we just taught people how to salsa and develop their dancing skills.
Fantastic, excellent stuff. And you mentioned there like Alan Smith, Jonathan Woodgate. See, when you were a coach back then, that was a right good time for Leeds United, wasn't it? Back then, had some real good players coming through.
They did some good young players. I really don't know what happened. I still try and fathom out when David O'Leary came in, how they didn't continue the success that they went on. And I think when you look back, it was all that money. They spent an awful lot of money trying to win the European Cup, didn't they?
Yeah.
And I think that's where it all went wrong, because once they didn't get, win it, and they didn't get the money that they thought they would get by winning it, they weren't able to recuperate the money that they'd spent. And it was downhill from there, and they've never really recovered financially up until now.
Yeah.
So, but you're right, with the players that they had, I think it's such a small margin, isn't it, Derek, between success and failure. It could have easily gone the other way for him, and everyone we'd be talking quite differently on what a good job he'd done, and not, how sad it was that the decline came under him. I felt really sorry for him, because I thought David O'Leary was a really good manager. I really do. Yeah.
Then do you pay much attention now to Leeds United, Ces, and how they're getting on in the Premier League?
Yeah, I do. Both Bradford City and Leeds United. Yeah. And let me talk about Bradford first, because I just love the job them two youngsters have done. Yeah. Now they've gone in. As you know, Stuart was managing before. And sometimes you just need a change, and again, the two that's gone in, they'll be looking at it completely differently to the way Stuart was looking at it. And I keep going back to this partnership rather than individual. And again, these two, there's a partnership going on between these two guys, and they play off each other, and the team have responded positively to it. So whatever they've introduced collectively, it's working, and so I was so pleased to see that they've been given a contract. Yeah. Because I think they deserve it. I just really want them to continue now and do well for the fans and the club. Yeah. And then when you look at Leeds, Bielsa is phenomenal. I love the way he plays, and I think he's brought back what we love about the game. It's about scoring goals, and people are now beginning to talk about that. Which we'd stopped talking about that, Derek, hadn't we?
Yeah.
The game is about scoring goals. That's why you go and watch football. And when you watch Leeds play, that's what I love watching about them. You just know there's going to be goals. Sometimes it's in the wrong end, but you just know there's going to be goals, and they're exciting. And you know who I really love in that Leeds United team? Luke Ayling. I played fullback, and I know how fit you have to be to cover the amount of ground, and the determination he puts into his game, and his work rate and his ability delivering the end product.
Yeah.
You know, awesome. For me, he's one of the play. You know, if I was the person deciding who's going to be Player of the Year this year for Leeds United, it would easily be him, and the season hasn't even finished yet.
Yeah. I remember when they got him in, Bristol City didn't want him anymore, and they got him in for peanuts, Leeds United, but Bielsa's made him into him and others into really, he's really improved them, hasn't he? He's got their game on.
But it just shows, doesn't it, how important managers are. You know, we blame them for everything. If the team's not winning, we blame them, we have a go at them, we should sack them, but you look at how important they are to individual players. You know, and that's a great example you just used, Bielsa and Ayling. Yeah, great job he's done with them.
Yeah, and finally, I was just going to touch on, you mentioned the two Bradford managers. I mean, even the CEO's, I think, only 29 years of age. So it's great to see, very much like when they brought you in, Ces, that they're just sort of bucking the trend and giving a chance to someone like this just to change it up a little bit. Yeah,
typical Bradford. You know, that's all I can say. Typical Bradford, and I just love the way they operate. I love the fact that they give opportunities to people. I love the fact that, you know, it's a multicultural city.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, everyone's given the chance to get some kind of success. And every time I go back, you know, Derek, all I have to do is call, and I'm accepted. Yeah. Do you want a couple of tickets? Do you want to sit in the box? There's a guy called Steve Smith.
Yeah.
He'll call me, you know, says that when he's coming back to the UK, you need to come to a game. And I just love the club. I think, you know, awesome. That's what football's about, you know, family, community, brilliant.
No, it's been absolutely brilliant having you on, Ces. I won't hold you too much longer. It's been great having you on the podcast, so thank you.
No problem, Derek. You're welcome.